I'm Natasha Kirchek, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, a secret deal to freeze the demolition of illegally built homes has just been exposed. Israel's state-sponsored Channel 1 News gets booted from the air, and history lovers get ready because an incredible new archaeological discovery has just been made in the Holy Land. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. A secret deal between the Israeli Prime Minister and Finance Minister to freeze the demolition of all illegally built homes for the next 2 years has just been exposed. Such news is a big deal for much of Israel's Arab community since many of their homes are built without proper building permits. The Israeli investigative journal The Marker has published 2 letters exposing the deal, and according to one of them written by the Deputy Attorney General, law enforcement officials have not been made aware of the deal. It was apparently kept under wraps in order to avoid upsetting more right-wing coalition partners. Arab Israelis often claim that it's disproportionately harder for them to secure the necessary permits to build homes, and as a result often build them without the required permits and on disputed land. Throughout the Negev desert, there are dozens of Bedouin villages stuck in a legal limbo, many of which have been demolished and rebuilt several times over. Despite the fact that the freeze is not officially being implemented, the Attorney General's office has confirmed that enforcement against illegal construction built outside of municipal territories has been given a higher priority over construction on private land. Initially, both the Prime Minister's office and Ministry of Finance have refused to respond to the Marker's expose, though the Prime Minister's office later recanted, saying that no such agreement exists. After 49 years of being on air, Israel's state-sponsored Channel 1 News has just been booted. ILTV's Aaron Porras has more on the story. Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Natasha. You're right. The Israel Broadcasting Authority, or IBA as it was known, was given just a 2-hour notice this morning to kill the lights and shut down the program. David Hahn, the official receiver of the Justice Ministry, announced the shutdown earlier this morning, like I said, as part of a government-brokered plan to replace the Israel Broadcasting Authority with a new wholly publicly funded entity known simply as Khan.
And it was a very emotional shutdown for the team there as well.
Yes, quite visibly.
So let's check out your report.
The plan to replace the IBA had led to a public row between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Finance Minister Moshe Kahlon, which threatened at one point to split the ruling coalition and force an early election. In the end, the 2 lawmakers reached a compromise to shut down the IBA and replace it with Khan, but to separate the news desk, giving the government increased editorial control. During last night's broadcast of the iconic Israeli news show Mabat, anchor Geula Evan was handed an announcement saying that last night's show would be her final broadcast. During the airing, Evan said, while struggling to remain stoic, that, quote, "This was my professional home for many years," and that there were many difficult moments and many good ones, and in the end, many people are being sent home, end quote. Evan had been offered a job at the new Khan news desk, but it's unclear if that offer is still valid since the government will have more editorial oversight than previously planned. It's believed by many political analysts that the hiring of Evan motivated the Prime Minister's decision to separate Khan's news department because the anchor is married to Gideon Sa'ar. Sa'ar is a former Interior and Education Minister who resigned from the Likud party in 2014, but is expected to make a political comeback and is considered by many political insiders as a viable candidate against Netanyahu in the Likud primaries.
As the hunger strike by Palestinian prisoners enters its 24th day, their supporters are appealing to the United Nations to intervene. The Palestinian Authority sent a letter to the UN Security Council requesting the international community pressure Israel to submit to the prisoners' demands.
أن مطالب الأسرى جميعها مطالب إنسانية وقد مضى اليوم 23 ولا زال الأسرى مضربين وأخشى ما نخشاه أن تحصل أحداث مؤسفة لهؤلاء الأسرى الأمر الذي سيعقد الأمور أكثر وأكثر ولذلك نحث الحكومة الإسرائيلية على تلبية طلباتهم الإنسانية بأسرع وقت ممكن.
Many of the convicts are behind bars for terror-related offenses. They say they want better conditions and an end to Israel's policy of detention without trial. The strike was declared on April 17th by Marwan Barghouti, who's serving 5 life sentences for murdering Israelis. Officials in Jerusalem firmly believe Barghouti only launched the action as a challenge against his political rival, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. As proof of his insincerity, the prison service released footage of Barghouti violating his own hunger strike.
Marwan Barghouti initiated this hunger strike only as a tool to advance his political career. Barghouti is a murderer and a hypocrite. While he was urging his fellow terrorists to remain steadfast in their strike and encouraging others to join, he himself was sneaking food behind their back. And just like he sent others to carry out terror attacks while he hid in Ramallah, he called on others to fast and suffer while he ate and enjoyed himself. He lied to Israel when he claimed that he wasn't a terrorist. He lied to the world when he wrote in the New York Times that he was striking because of the ill treatment of Palestinian prisoners. And he lied to the Palestinians when he claimed he was refusing food.
Barghouti supporters, including his wife, alleged the film is fake.
حالة اللي وصل لها هذا الاحتلال أنا بتقديري انحطاط يجب على العالم، وبدل ما العالم يدور على الرواية، العالم يأنب إسرائيل، العالم يعاقبها على هذا الانحطاط في الأخلاق، إنها توصل لمرحلة لهذا الدبلجة والتصوير والطريقة اللي إحنا ما تفاجأنا بصراحة، ما تفاجأنا. وأنا لما زرته آخر مرة سمعت منه أنهم سيخوضوا حرب حقيقية ضد هذا الإضراب بكل الأدوات وبكافة الوسائل من أجل إحباطه.
It's still unclear just how many prisoners are still refusing to eat. While foreign news reports say it began with more than 1,000 participants, local sources are reporting the number has fallen to 880. Joining me today to discuss Israeli-Turkish relations, especially given the recent inflammatory comments from the Turkish president regarding Israel, is Dr. Galia Lindenstrauss, an expert on Turkish affairs at the Institute for National Security Studies. Thank you so much for coming in.
Hello.
All right, so let's begin with these comments. Turkish President Erdogan has called for Muslims to flood the Temple Mount. Why is he doing this all of a sudden?
There are, I think, several reasons for this. First, Turkey has emphasized the issue of Jerusalem for quite a long time. It has shifted its rhetoric from emphasizing the situation in Gaza to the situation in Jerusalem, to the perceived change in the status quo. Of course, Israel says that nothing has happened, but from the Muslim world, there are voices that things are not the same as they used to be. Turkey wants to be one of the leading powers in the Muslim world, so that's one issue, the benefits of emphasizing Jerusalem if you want to be such a leader. Another issue is perhaps for domestic audience. This is an issue that is popular among the Turkish public. And third, I think that now that the normalization agreement is almost a year, there are some expectations that were before the normalization agreement that may have not materialized the way Erdogan
Well, I mean,
wanted.
and in many senses, this fact could be related to Erdogan's attempt to secure power in last month's vote as well, correct?
This is very important, Erdogan, the issue of being a president, and not just a president, but being an executive president with all the powers in Turkey. This is something that Erdogan has strived to do for a long time. It was very tense towards April 16 when there was a referendum. Now supposedly he should relax because the referendum passed, but it passed in a very narrow majority.
Now, what is the impact that this will have on Israeli-Turkish relations? We just saw this reconciliatory deal take place last year. Things were looking up. And now this happens.
So we still have to wait to see if it's just a one-time spat, in the sense that not that Erdogan would not criticize Israel again, but in the senses that Erdogan said his statement and Israel's foreign ministry replied. Will it continue, or is this over for now? If it's over for now, I think things will go back to the relaxed mode they were before the comments. I think there is, however, an effect on the Israel-Turkish gas deal. I think the voices in Israel that are criticizing this deal are now going to gain momentum because of Erdogan's remarks.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. All right, it looks like for now Israel is still in the clear with FIFA, the world's international soccer league. The Palestinians have been calling for punitive action against the Israeli national team for training on land in the Palestinian territories. But Israel's been issued a reprieve from FIFA for the time being. After a 5-hour-long meeting in Bahrain, a FIFA council ruled that it's still too premature to take action. Palestinian soccer chief Jibril Rajoub has been leading efforts for the World Federation to suspend Israel because 6 of its teams are based in the West Bank. Since that's on land the Palestinians want for their future state, Rajoub insists Israel is violating FIFA statutes against member associations playing on another member's territory.
My request to my colleagues in FIFA, in the General Assembly, to prepare, create an environment with a mechanism to end the suffering of our footballers and at the same time end the Israeli violations of status of FIFA, human rights, Security Council resolution by organizing and managing official league in the occupied territories.
The Palestinians are also rejecting the proposed plan Jerusalem presented to resolve the dispute.
I don't think that we can reach an agreement with the Israelis. The Israelis want to keep talking just for the sake of talking. They don't want to find any compromise, as I said, with FIFA statutes as term of reference.
A Brussels-based think tank on Middle East issues has already criticized the Sports Council for failing to take action. And the issue still might be brought for discussion at the governing body of soccer's annual Congress when it convenes in Manama tomorrow. All right, forget about Hamas terror tunnels and Hezbollah rockets. There's now a major new threat to the Israeli army, but you'll never guess what it is. Aaron, I know you just had to come into the studio to talk about this new threat. Tell us about it.
Well, basically, 17 soldiers have now been hospitalized after a fox broke into their tent in a southern Tel Aviv army base and started biting them in their heads and feet.
Now, this obviously isn't a funny story. I mean, no. It sounds very, very strange, but it also isn't new. In the past, the Army actually has had a problem with stray animals entering bases, and one of our producers said that when he was in the Army, that would happen often with wild pigs. He'd actually be called to patrol the border when they thought that people were passing through the border, the Lebanese border, and instead it was actually just wild boars that were confusing Israeli Army technology.
It makes sense, and to be perfectly honest, my theory is that the fox is a spy, you know, because even worse, according to some eyewitnesses, I have this is real. According to some eyewitness, several animals have even been found going on patrol or impersonating soldiers.
Oh, Lord.
Spies. Spies.
Well, anyhow, like we said, this might seem like a laughing matter, but the foxes have spooked these soldiers so much that they're now afraid to return to their base for fear of being attacked again. So until the IDF can figure out how these fox are getting in, maybe our soldiers should start sleeping with their helmets and boots on. What do you say?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right, divorce is never easy, but Jewish religious law doesn't actually compel a husband to agree to getting a divorce. This means that if your husband refuses, then you could end up being stuck married against your will. ILTV's Aaron Porras is still with us to bring us up to speed on this law's effect. Aaron, tell us about this law.
Basically what happens is it results in husbands being capable of using their marriages politically at times. So that means that if you are one of these unfortunate women who are stuck in a marriage where they can't get a get, which is what the religious divorce document is called, if you can't get a get, you're stuck. And in a lot of communities, you even become a social pariah of sorts. So what was worse is that you have these women who are known as chained wives, and there was an attempt to update Israeli law to help them, and that law was just postponed, which is affecting one woman in particular way more than the rest.
Well, let's hear your report.
Zvian Gordetsky has been holding a hunger strike outside the Knesset since May 3rd in a desperate plea for government intervention. Her husband has adamantly refused to grant her a divorce for more than 17 years, and she says she has nowhere left to turn. Unfortunately, a discussion on a bill allowing state annulments in these types of cases has just been shelved for 3 months. Even if it is reintroduced, it's unlikely to pass due to opposition from ultra-Orthodox Jewish lawmakers. The 53-year-old Gordetsky says she's been waiting long enough and will refuse to eat until she's regained her freedom from marital strife.
The chairman of the U.S. Military Joint Chiefs of Staff has been very busy on his state visit to Israel ever since his government aircraft hit the tarmac. General Joseph Dunford and his wife were welcomed by Israeli and American military officers at Ben Gurion Airport, followed by an honor guard at Israeli military headquarters in Tel Aviv. Dunford met with Israeli Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot during an official welcoming ceremony. The top American defense chief then held talks with Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman. The pinnacle of the visit is undoubtedly the general's meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem. According to a statement from the Israeli army, the discussions are focusing on cooperation between the two allies' armies, as well as mutual challenges facing both nations. The Joint Chiefs trip comes just about 2 weeks before U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to make his own very first historic visit to Israel. Art lovers, get ready for a treat. Joining me today in the studio is Ruthie Siegel, the chairwoman of the Beit Chagal Association of Northern Artists. She's here to tell us about her new and upcoming exhibits. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, so how long have you been creating art, and what type of art do you create?
I create art all my life, but since 30 years almost, I do only art, not another work.
Beautiful. Okay, so and what kind of materials are you using? Is this?
Those are acrylic. I paint
like
always
acrylic, okay.
trees and then landscapes, and because I love trees, I think trees are the most important thing in our life.
Well, they are. That's true. And
Yes.
are you based in the north? Is that where you?
Yes.
So
yes.
I mean, there's an abundance. If anybody has ever been to northern Israel, it's green. There's so many colors.
Yes. I live on Mount Carmel, so I
there
have
you
it
go.
always in my window. But it's not always green. It should be.
Yeah,
it
you're
can
right.
Be every color.
It's
I
true.
can choose every color I want.
Beautiful. So, you know, Israel isn't very well known for its art scene, which isn't really fair. What advice would you give to tourists that are coming to Israel and want to experience more of Israel's kind of visual art scene?
They should go to meet artists, I think, to meet them face to face, to visit their studios, to see what they are doing. Not only museums. The museum I'm going to show my work next, in the end of this month, in Akko. It's another kind of a museum. It's a peripheral, not so they always show Israeli artists. Tel Aviv and Jerusalem show artists from all the world, but in the north we prefer the Israeli.
Absolutely, and Akko is in northern Israel.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of a drive or train ride from Tel Aviv, but it's definitely worth it because that's just a totally different art scene that you see there.
Because Akko worth visit anyway, tourism and history and archaeology. Akko had everything in it.
Absolutely, and you're also you have an exhibit or a gallery opening in Tel Aviv as well, correct?
Yes, it's group exhibition. 5 artists and one of the ceramic lady, she makes ceramics. Another are painters, and one of them is a sculptor of woodcut. He collects woods. This work of Salah Al-Kara, it's mine. Different kind of works, very interesting. Small gallery, but very nice. It includes a coffee shop, so for tourists it's fantastic. It's a nice place to sit, to drink and eat and see.
And get a real taste of what Israeli artwork is.
To be in the art.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that I get to go to the gallery myself.
You're invited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hundreds of World War II veterans all over the world commemorated VE Day yesterday in memorial of the Allied forces' victory over Nazi Germany. ILTV's Aaron Porras is back with me now to tell us about how Israelis marked the occasion. Aaron.
Yes. Well, even though it is the 72nd anniversary of the end of the Second World War, the memories are still very fresh for a lot of people, possibly even fresher right here in Israel. 1.5 million Jews fought on the front lines, many of which ended up right here in Israel. So VE Day is a pretty important day here.
Absolutely.
Veterans in uniforms adorned by medals of war could be seen parading through the old city streets of Jerusalem, hand in hand with family and friends, and honoring those they've lost.
I came with my mother to celebrate the Victory Day. I think this is a huge day for the whole world, and we need to support people who fight for us during the Second War. So all our family, like my grandfathers, they was in the war.
Prime Minister Netanyahu spent time hosting Red Army veterans at the Knesset as the marchers continued their parade, ending the day with an official state ceremony at the Jerusalem Monument of the Jewish Soldiers and Partisans on the Mount of Remembrance. President Rivlin greeted veterans at the ceremony.
All right, now get this. Evidence of battles between British and Ottoman armies has just recently been exposed in an archaeological excavation conducted by the Israeli Antiquities Authority. ILTV's Aaron Porras is still with us with more on the find. Aaron, you just won't leave it.
I can't quit you, you know?
I know. Well, this is actually a very, very cool story because typically the discoveries that we find here in Israel are much, much older than this one, correct?
Yeah, but this is so, like you said, this is unique in that respect. It's a little bit younger as archaeological finds go. Dozens of bullet cartridges, shell fragments, and military items from World War I were all found near the Afek Industrial Park and the Rosh Ha'ain area, and it really is quite amazing. You know, there were new parts of World War I, new stories that have been uncovered
as a result of this
items,
find.
yeah.
All right, well, let's check out your report.
Students of the Melech HaAretz pre-military prep program, representatives of the Israel Antiquities Authority and the Nature and Parks Authority presented their findings to the defense attaché in the British Embassy in Israel. They were shocked and quite excited about the discovery because it showed physical evidence that there had been major fighting between forces in this area. Yossi Elisha, director of the excavation, said he was thrilled to discover such a find. He continued saying, quote, "As archaeologists, we expect to discover ancient finds from hundreds and thousands of years ago. Whereas here we have a relatively young 100-year-old artifact, but we were all drawn to the fascinating story of the battle." End quote. In addition, a weapons expert at the Israel Antiquities Authority, Alexander Glick, reconstructed the battlefield in accordance with the findings. What he finds most interesting are the rifles and cartridges that were manufactured in Germany and supplied to the Turks, giving us hard evidence that the Turks were in fact fully dependent on Germany for its weapons and ammunition.
All right, despite what anybody tells you, it's very rare for a car to become a positive investment. It's not every day that you make more selling the car than you spent buying and keeping it in good shape, but one Israeli man now knows the pains of trying to sell a car better than pretty much anyone else on the planet. Eugene Romanovsky is trying to sell his 1996 Suzuki Vitara, but he's not having much luck. So unlike most of us, the creative director for a Tel Aviv design and animation firm went to extraordinary lengths to make this sale. Using his skills, Eugene came up with an ad video highlighting the many incredible things that his car can do, and it's gone viral. All right, I don't know who this guy is, but I want to meet him. Romanovsky said that ever since his over-the-top video hit the air, he's received hundreds of legitimate inquiries. And in case any of you watching are interested in this waterproof, vacuum-proof, dinosaur-proof vehicle, it's apparently available for just $6,000.
The Hebrew word of the day is brought to you by IDC Summer Ulpan, open to everyone.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Just this morning, a fox was seen sneaking onto an army base, and it actually ended up hurting several of the soldiers on duty. So today's word is, unfortunately, bis, or a bite. No one ever wants an animal to take a bis out of them, and waking up with mosquito bisim or bites is never pleasant either. On the other hand, when someone is hungry, you can ask them if they want to grab a bis with you. If you're the one who's hungry, you could also say ten li bis, or give me a bite. But just remember not to be greedy with the bis that you take. You wouldn't want to bite off more than you can chew. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be clear to partly cloudy with a low of 66 or 19 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow is expected to be fairly windy with a significant drop in temperatures and a high of 78 or 26 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.6 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.